A shocking verdict for Amanda Knox.
Amanda is very upset. We're very surprised of the outcome of the decision.
Now reconvicted of slander for accusing an innocent man in her roommate's murder in Italy in 2007. Knox, who was 20 years old at the time, was arrested along with her then boyfriend for the death of Meredith Kercher.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay, so I started. How is everybody? Hi, Blue River. Hi, Maestro. Hello, God L8. I don't know, 3.0. Kitties, 1993. Hello, how are you? Ain't no holla back, girl. So I started the opening on Amanda Knox conviction, which still stands for her slander of an innocent Black man. Her boss, who was very nice to her, Patrick Lumumba, she accused him of the murder she was eventually convicted of. And then the Supreme Court illegally threw out all the DNA evidence against her. That's really not their job to do. They're just supposed to evaluate the convictions. But they threw out all the DNA against her and Raff and said it was unreliable and that all the evidence against Rudy Gude somehow is reliable, same investigator, same lab, but against the Black man, it's totally reliable. Against the white people, not so. It's suspicious and should be thrown out. But it also determined, Supreme Court, her great exoneration, Amanda Knox, that this was, as every court that's ever looked at all the evidence in this case, we're talking about the murder of Meredith Kercher that happened in Perugia, Italy in 2007. Every court that has looked at all the evidence in this case says that this is a crime done by multiple people, not one man alone. And now that Rudy has reoffended, this is really, Amanda Knox is really going off on really pushing this idea that Rudy did it alone. But every court that's looked at this has said this is a group crime. So it's kind of hard to imagine these group crimes. It's much easier to imagine one person with one motivation and how these group crimes actually, the actual mechanics of it, how it happens. It's hard to imagine. And I think that's benefits Amanda Knox, certainly. And strangely, Rudy has reoffended. He's preyed on a woman. That's what he's being alleged to have done. But strangely, she lived. She lived. So people who, tout Amanda Knox's innocence is like, well, what did you hear? Rudy reoffended. Like it's in a great own. And I've always said he was involved in this. There's 3 people who were convicted of this. I believe they got it right. Amanda Knox, Raffaele Sollecito, and Rudy Gude. And Amanda Knox, when her boyfriend, Raffaele Sollecito, pulled her alibi, she immediately went to this story that her boss, who was very kind to her, Patrick Lumumba, did it. And it was untrue. She never recanted. She let him sit in jail until he got out on his own alibi. But she never recanted, never came to them and said, I got it wrong. I hear the Hulu doc makes it look like she did that. That never happened. So now Amanda Knox is producing her own propaganda films along with Monica Lewinsky. And Gwyneth Paltrow has interviewed her. And she is the perfect kind of interviewer for Amanda Knox because she completely believes every word out of her mouth. She has a history of being aligned, her family being aligned with this movement. And let me tell you how. I'm talking about the wrongful conviction movement. So her brother's wife is Taryn Simon. She's a photographer. But she is also this is the Innocence Project website. She's also an Innocence ambassador and has won an award from the Innocence Project for her work touting out this ideology and this idea that there's so many wrongful convictions and supporting the work, which I consider, as I've said before and again, the biggest fraud in America going. I've looked at one innocence case after the next, and one is more ridiculously guilty person that they're trying to get out than the next. But it makes lawyers very rich. Go to my interview on innocence fraud on how it's making lawyers very rich and the movement is very wealthy. So Gwyneth Paltrow comes by this very naturally. Amanda Knox is never going to do an interview with anyone who thinks she's guilty, never really go over the evidence. And you'll see in this interview when Gwyneth Paltrow asked the question, like, well, they must have thought that they had to try you with some evidence. And they couldn't really try you with a hunch. Like, why were you put in jail? What evidence did they have? And Amanda Knox immediately gets very vague. So she's not going to talk about the double DNA knife with her DNA on the handle of the knife and Meredith Kercher's on the blade. She's not going to talk about the multiple places of mixed blood of Amanda and Meredith Kercher all over the villa that they lived in, except the scene of the room and the scene of the crime, which is the room that was done a lot of cleaning. So it's most significant that the mixed blood, so it's DNA that lit up under luminol very brightly, very intensely. Now, Amanda Knox supporters will say, oh, she rubbed root vegetables on her feet. And that's why it just mixed with Meredith Kercher's DNA, or that they both lived there. But there was no mixed DNA of any other roommate. She had two other roommates, Philomena and Laura, that lit up in this kind of intense way, very intense way that it does when it's mixed blood. So it's in the bathroom, the hallway, and the room of the staged break-in. We know Amanda Knox had staged a break-in before as a prank. So this is like let me see. Yeah, that's a little bit better. So, so it looks like they're sitting in like some kind of, I don't know if this is a set or if this is like a home or a hotel room or what, but they're sitting very far apart from each other. Amanda Knox is dressed in all white, clearly trying to put out the idea that she's very innocent and pure, right? This white strapless dress. And there's Gwyneth sitting with not a hair out of place. And, there will be a time when I can say more about this interview, but now is not the time. I have a lot to say that it's really hard when you come on and do these shows when, just for personal reasons, you can't say certain things. So I am going to hold my tongue and let's get into the Amanda Knox. This is new. This is in the last couple of days interview with Gwyneth Paltrow, the Queen of Goop, who's like, I would call her the Queen of Dupe for this interview. She is just buying it all and selling it all hook, line, and sinker. And Monica Lewinsky, Amanda Knox tends to attach herself to these people and say, look, I was vilified in the same way. Monica Lewinsky was 22, 23 years old when she had an affair with our married President Clinton. She had like the same kind of history of like inappropriate behavior, like showing her underwear to her thong to Bill Clinton and then saying like, who, me? Like, I was just a girl. I didn't know what I was doing. At 23, how many women in my audience at 23 would show your underwear to the President of the United States? It's a little odd. So it shows like extreme confidence, no? And a kind of irreverence to the office. But both of them are going to play victim in the public. And they're both getting rich off of this story, their version of the story. So take a listen.
Right? It all begins with two young women from different parts of the world who come together in this beautiful little town in the green heart of Italy, and only one of them survives. Boom.
Monica comes to you and says, I want to do a drama of your story. And how did you kind of take ownership of that such that it would be an empowering and healing narrative?
You know, in the
An empowering and healing narrative. An empowering and healing narrative. Healing for Amanda Knox. Meredith Kercher is dead. The Supreme Court that let her go, that let her walk due to a lot of political pressure, determined that she was there at the scene of the crime and washed Meredith's blood off of her hands. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? It needs to be healing for Amanda? What kind of healing does she need to be done? She's been given millions of dollars for her book. The press never stops interviewing her. My Google alarm for her name never stops going off. Like, she's never out of the public eye for a minute because she wanted to be a writer. So she's very excited she gets to, kind of sell her story and cement it as American myth, along with the press who loves to do this too. What a feeling of power. So why do people kill other people? For a sense of power and control? What's another incredible way of power and control? To be able to tell the story your way. All right, I'll let this play for a little bit and stop talking, but it is peak insanity, this one.
years that have gone by, because it's such like this big scandalous story, a lot of people have reached out to me to say the same thing. We want to do your story. It's crazy. And for the longest time, I said no for two reasons. One, none of them were saying, we want you to executive produce a story about yourself. Like, none of them,
They just
again,
wanted life
they just want, life rights. They're like, please trust us to tell your story. And like, best of intentions, love, great, fine. But also, I'm a storyteller in my own right. Like, I'm a creative person. My voice has value, and maybe I have some vision to share as well. But more than that,
I want the money that comes with being an executive producer and having control. That is what these crimes are about. These killers all have the same personality. They all want control. This is all about control. So she wants to control her story and get rich from it because she really has no other talents. She's tried to say she's not going to do a true crime podcast that, or it's not talk about it anymore. She's come out, do something else, go back to school. She quits that. She quits everything she starts. It's amazing that she came out with this. But who would have her on to talk about anything else?
it was the fact that, like, for a very long time, I felt really uncomfortable with the idea of telling my story in a dramatized way because it didn't feel like my story. First of all, like, it's also the story about how a girl went to Italy and got murdered. People have always like tried to compare us and sort of like pit us against each other in this horrific way when we're both victims.
You're not a victim, Amanda Knox. You did 2 years in prison for slander. That's why you deserve no money. That conviction still stands. Amazingly, let me talk about her slander conviction for falsely accusing her boss, which is so funny. All these celebrities do all this lip service about race. And this was like the most racist accusation. She needed a fill-in. So Rudy Gude is African. He lived in Perugia his whole life. They like to call him like some kind of wanderer, but he was known in that town. He was not some kind of, wanderer. What do they call him? Straggler, loner guy. People knew him. And so she needed a stand-in, an African stand-in, a black man to accuse. And she picked her boss because he's also African. She thought somehow maybe if they found it would be, if someone saw something, or it would be a good stand-in. But so they do it was the most, the people that, there is a section of the American public who love this story because it loves Amanda's version of the story, let's say, because it absolves the white criminals while still condemning the black criminal. So it's a popular case among our racist friends, not friends. What do you call it? Coexisting people we coexist with in the world.
Same circumstances, and I just didn't like the idea of telling a story or being a part of somebody telling a story about, again, two girls go to Italy and only one of them survives. The end. It just felt wrong because I didn't do anything. Meredith didn't do it. We just went to Italy and then all of these bad things were done to us. And so it didn't feel like my story. What am I, just a victim? No, I don't like it. I just didn't like it. It felt voyeuristic and wrong. And it wasn't until I started myself in my real life taking action. And, the decision to reach out to my prosecutor to talk to him, the decision to go back to Italy to confront him in person.
Right, with camera crews and in a way that I can edit. There's not going to be any real discussion of the evidence against her. So, Amanda, was that you? We had those witnesses who said that you were out buying cleaning supplies in the early morning hours, waiting for the store to open and then running to the back of the store to get cleaning supplies. Was that you with the striking blue eyes? Was that you? Don't you find it odd that Meredith had female size shaped bruises on her body? Or what about that size 7 shoe print in Meredith's blood on her pillow? You think that was your shoe print? How did that get to be there? And the whole place smelled like it was cleaned.
That was me.
Yeah.
That did not have to happen, but that was me taking the reins back in my own life and decisively becoming the protagonist of my own life again. That was a story for me. And so when Monica approached me and said, hey, I was like, you know what? I think I am at this point now, because I'm not just sort of a victim of circumstance. Now I'm making a choice. Now I'm taking a risk, and I don't know what's going to happen, because at the moment that she reached out to me, I still hadn't met him in person yet. I just reached out to him.
Right. She's taking a risk. Yeah, taking a risk when she can edit him any way that she wants. What if he says no? Nobody's going to know about it. What kind of risk is this? And what's fascinating is when she went to Joe Rogan and did another one of her lie-a-thons with Joe Rogan, the audience, I think it was in the comment section, like, she wants to make friends with her prosecutor. She wants to understand her prosecutor. They were like, get the F out. No way. That's what made them think she was guilty. It's fascinating what, if you listen to her long enough, her story weaves and changes like the wind from interview to interview.
And so over the course.
But it's fascinating to find what, raises people's eyebrows or raises the red flags within them.
Of creating the show was also me doing the thing that we depict in this show, which is going back and meeting him and confronting him.
You know, there's always an aspect like when someone is known for a story like this and it's then given you this incredible platform and you're doing all this amazing work from it. Like, I just want to acknowledge that like it's difficult, you know, to be asked to traverse back through this stuff. And it's become this, you know, as I said, like platform for you to do so much good, but yet still like talking about it.
What good has Amanda Knox ever done? It's all been selfishly for herself. What charity work has Amanda Knox done? Oh, wait. I have the answer. She went out and said that Keith Raniere, strangely, right when Keith Raniere was going to do this contest of $35,000 offered to people who could find holes in his federal case, right? He was going to release this kind of, I don't know what you call it, like a contest to the American public. Amanda Knox came forward as a spokesperson for Keith Raniere, the NXIVM gurus. She thinks his conviction was, I went to that trial. Let me tell you, it was not a wrongful conviction. He's doing 120 years for child. How do I say it? Having pictures of children shouldn't have, trafficking. And she came out and said so. And strangely, that contest and the money vanished into thin air.
It's difficult. Like, I'm just sorry that, you know, at the same time that I don't know if it's re-traumatizing to have to talk about this stuff.
So Gwyneth has this thing where like she raises her eyebrows. She looks kind of like a little fawn, even though she's in her 50s, like just an innocent fawn in her crisp blue shirt with not a stain on it or certainly not covered in cat hair like I am. You know, I know this must be traumatizing. And Amanda's like, what? Traumatizing? I live for this. I live for this. I live for duping the American public and getting over. And once again, I get to tell the story and I get to be the victim. She said they're both victims. Meredith Kercher doesn't have her life. Even if you think Amanda Knox had nothing to do with this, being rightfully convicted for 2 years and let out is I mean, maybe you can say maybe been a little stressful thinking you might do time in prison, but her dad got her at $1 million, paid $1 million, got her a PR team before he even got her a lawyer, Gargarty Marriott. And that's why we were propagandized nonstop in America with falsehoods about her case. You know, just to let you know, I was an Amanda Knox sympathizer before I thought she was guilty, because I had received one of these letters from the Friends of Amanda when I worked for Oprah. That's what got me into this case. I couldn't believe that, you know, the prosecutor was under investigation. He was totally cleared of any wrongdoing. But, you know, there's so many, the way that they paint the story, it sounds outrageous, right?
For how you.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from with that. But like from the very.
I hear where you're coming from, that it might be traumatic had I really not had anything to do with this. But since I did do this, it's not really traumatic. I really enjoy getting over on you and the American public, lying about my case. I love it.
Beginning, it felt like no one cared what the truth was, and no one cared what I had to say.
No one cared what I had to say. You had $1 million PR team out there while you were in jail, and no one cared. Your best friend moved to Perugia to support you. Your parents took out all kinds of, like, I believe, loans and stuff to support you. Did interviews, even though they weren't married together, as a couple. So they did interviews. Her parents are divorced, but they did interviews as a couple to support her. And then when she got out, she's had the 2 books, 2 documentaries now, innocence fraud documentaries, all not from a position of guilt, all from her point of view. And no one wanted to hear what she had to say. She's talking about people like me and the tiny pushback she gets from people who think she's guilty. We're a thorn in her side.
And, it's interesting that you're right that in a very big way, my voice and my story is being platformed right now. And it's surreal to me because even after, the courts eventually vindicated me and freed me, it's not like the world was then like, yay, Amanda. It was I very much felt buried underneath this story that was made up by other people. And
now I give you the story that's made up by me. It's made up by other people. It was actually based on the evidence in the case. Bush Comics, thanks so much. I appreciate it on these. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Says, Amanda, why was your lamp under Meredith's bed? This is a really important point. So Amanda Knox often says that there is no evidence of me in the room where the crime happened. But really, the crime scene I look at as the entire villa. Certainly, Philomena's room, which is the room of the stage break-in. And you have the bathroom where Raf's footprint was found on the bath mat, the bathroom, hallway. But the room where there's a lot of cleaning done was the room where the crime happened. Meredith was moved. She was covered in a blanket, which also indicates knowing the victim and having a little bit of remorse, not wanting to look at it. And her light, which was her only light source, Amanda Knox's lamp, was found facing the bed. So on the floor, facing underneath the bed. So what was Amanda Knox looking for under the bed? So if you felt that Rudy did this alone, someone had to clean up the scene. There's only one reason to clean up the scene. It is because you live there and you want to, get your evidence out. If you don't live there, you're not connected, you leave like Rudy Goudet did. Well, Raf and Amanda stayed, this is the prosecution's theory, and cleaned up the scene. Scene was cleaned. There was blood in the hallway that was cleaned up. Meredith was moved and her duvet was put over her. So this is very important. Her lamp, there's her lamp in the middle of the room, the scene of the crime. And then, of course, the knife is found at Raf's house, which is the murder weapon, with having been very heavily cleaned, but not cleaned enough because Amanda's DNA was on the handle and Meredith's DNA was found on the blade of that knife. So that doesn't make any sense that Rudy would go and return the knife to Raf's apartment. There's a lot of good evidence and a lot of reasons to think she's guilty. Besides her own contradicting and changing statements, basically her own lies.
And like the messaging that I received was, okay, so you're not the villain that we made you out to be, but the thing you really need to do is shut up and disappear. Like, okay, you came from nothing, you blipped on our radar, we're still sort of holding it against you, be buried. Mm-hmm. And I fought so hard for so long to just to be heard.
Yeah.
And
oh, this is again, her book is called Waiting to Be Heard. So she does have a point that people, even who in my audience who think she's innocent, say, why doesn't she go away and do something else? Enough. But she has no talents and no other way to make money. So she's just profited off of her crime over and over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, this is from 2000. This is a crime from 2007, and a lot of the people that spoke out about it early on have long gone and gone on to other things. So I feel like it's my duty to keep reminding the American public of one of the few out there of the actual facts of this case.
To be in a position now where I really am feeling supported and recognized, I do not take that lightly. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for people going out of their way to tell me that my voice does matter. And it like starts with my husband, who's also executive producer on this show. But like back when he met me, I was in hiding. Like I was not like, I didn't go to book readings because I was afraid I would get recognized. Like I lived for years just like not going to public places or.
Okay, find me a year from the time she's been out to now where she has not been in the press. You won't find it. Always in the press. Always out and about. Paparazzi photos, this event, making this statement on Twitter, trolling with really inappropriate, hurtful tweets to the Kercher family. This is totally fictional, made up.
If I did, I just like kept my head low and I didn't talk to anybody and I didn't make friends because I just didn't feel like I belonged to humanity anymore. I felt ostracized. I felt exiled.
Wow.
And
do you feel like you sort of had embodied this shame that was given to you that wasn't yours?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, again, like all of this happened when I was very young.
So that's interesting. So do you think you embodied this shame for doing this crime? So it's like almost like Gwyneth's being piqued a little bit. So she didn't do it. So why is she having shame? Why does she feel she can go out? She must have embodied the shame. And Amanda here. Wait, hold on. Let's go back and watch that one more time.
Embodied this shame that was given to you that wasn't yours?
Certainly. Yeah. I mean, again, like all of this happened when I was very young, right? And I was processing trauma on top of trauma, right? It all began.
So she's saying, I did. So what if I killed somebody? I did it when I was very young. My brain wasn't fully formed. Brain overclaim syndrome. Strangely, all of us who had unformed brains went through life without killing someone. And our brain was unformed, but not Amanda. She's just a victim of her brain. So she goes to her youth. And then she had trauma on top of trauma.
Begins with, two young women from different parts of the world who come together in this beautiful little town in the green heart of Italy, and only one of them survives. Boom.
Right.
One huge trauma.
And you're how old when this happened?
I was 20. I was 20 years old. And then 5 days later, I'm still like in shock. I haven't even gotten past, the first stage of grief, which is like denial and shock. And then I'm thrown into a prison cell and accused.
Okay. How did she process her grief? So while others went to the memorial service, Amanda didn't go. The whole town was at a memorial service for Meredith, except Amanda and Raph, strangely, were out getting pizza. And then she went out and bought lingerie and held it up and said in the lingerie store, I can't wait to go home and have great sex with you tonight wearing this. And sounds like, maybe something that would be put out just to slander her, right, Amanda Knox? But there's pictures of her in the CCTV holding up the lingerie. According to the prison guard, when she was in jail, she never had any never needed any medication to sleep, never cried. Did perfectly okay. Was very selfish with her stuff that she got. So the girls would share their food or whatever they had with her, and she wouldn't share with them. Typical self-centered, psychopathic Amanda.
Of having masterminded a death orgy.
I can't.
And then I'm like, okay, and then I'm surviving years.
That was never the prosecution's theory, that it was a death orgy. That's something that Amanda Knox supporters put out to make it look ridiculous. It was never argued in court that it was some kind of orgy or death orgy. But Amanda Knox will keep pushing it because she knows it's useful to her to say it like that, to make the charges against her look ridiculous.
Years of prison, which itself is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So like, it's just like been trauma on top of trauma that it's taken me years to sort of unravel what is this. And so when I first came home, absolutely, I was, I'm looking to the world for guidance on how I'm supposed to process this traumatic experience. And what the world was telling me was, you're not a victim, shut up and disappear.
Wow.
And so, of course, like...
Amanda, do you want me to say it again? I'll say it now. You're not a victim. I agree. Shut up and disappear. Do something else, anything else, but keep profiting off your crime. Apparently, there are still some moral people left who do not like you profiting off your crime, who are familiar with the facts of the case and don't like it when you profit off your crime. How? Okay, and then she says it was trauma on top of trauma. She didn't process the trauma. She didn't go to, like, say, a therapist to process her experience. She needs to look to the all of American society, social media, to process her trauma. And she didn't process her trauma writing her first book, waiting to be heard. Wasn't she waiting to be heard then? It's absurd. And Gwyneth is just like, wow. How can I help you? How can I help you with this interview? I mean, what a great sidekick to have if you're inventing a story. Someone who's just going to believe it and treat you like a victim.
Any like raw grief feelings that I have for the life that I could have lived or for my own pain that I've gone through, I'm just experiencing rejection after rejection. And I felt buried.
Can we go back to the beginning for a minute? Because
Yeah.
I just want to understand. So
What's one time she's ever experienced rejection? She's never been publicly shamed, yelled at. I mean, I would expect people to throw tomatoes at her everywhere she goes after she did what she did, but we're a very forgiving public. And we've had our innocence fraud campaign brainwash most of the American public, or a lot of it, into thinking she is some kind of victim and she was innocent and that it was like some kind of kangaroo court. And AI, when you look up like the facts of the case, have AI tell you the facts of the case from a position of guilt, the only thing left is the double DNA knife. All the rest of the evidence has been wiped out of the collective memory.
you grew up in Seattle or in Washington? somewhere?
Yeah.
Right.
Seattle, Washington.
You grew up
yeah.
in Seattle. You're on your junior year abroad.
Mhm.
This is like my daughter's age,
Yeah.
roughly. And you move into this apartment. You're sort of like,
It wasn't the junior year abroad. She got no college she got no college credits. She was taking, I believe, 1 or 2 language courses. Very light load. Meredith was taking a very heavy course, like a full course load, which is already a problem. Amanda was there to party. and hang out and take one language class that gave her no college credits.
Like full of optimism and excitement, and you're moving into your cottage and you have a roommate. And how long you were establishing your life there, you were starting classes, how long into your junior year abroad did this happen?
So I was there in Perugia for 5 weeks, I believe.
That's it.
Yeah. So I was still like getting settled, I was still figuring out how to say, where is the biblioteca? Like and it was a magical experience. Like I have to say, like everything up to the.
Her Italian was pretty good. She spoke German, grandmother's German, so she's very good at languages. She was picking it up pretty quickly.
The tremendous, horrible tragedy that happened was beautiful. Like I was meeting lots of other students. I was, going out and drinking wine and having pizza with, and going and seeing live music.
And going through thousands of dollars. She was almost gone through her entire money that she had. She's going through thousands a week. And there was all these cocaine dealers' numbers in her phone that were found after the murder. So you can also had made. She was there to party. Let's put that and have a good time.
And there was the flea market, and there was the chocolate festival, and and I'm living with these 3 beautiful young women, one of whom is a foreign exchange student like me, and the other 2 are Italians. And so I'm just feeling really like welcomed and homed and embraced, and it's a beautiful experience. And then I meet my boyfriend, Raffaele, at this classical music concert. So everything is going the way that you would hope your study abroad experience would go. Dreamy. And I'm on like the mentality that I was in when I came home to discover this crime scene was like, it was a special.
Except for this problem with your roommate, Meredith. So they started out as friends, and then their friendship deteriorated because Amanda was incredibly selfish, didn't clean, would play the same note on the guitar and drive everyone crazy over and over again, have strange men over, not flush the toilet. And Meredith was a neat freak. She never did her chores, so everybody was given chores. So there's 2 other roommates, Laura and Philomena, and Meredith and Amanda. So we have 4 women living in a small villa that needed to be cleaned because it's out of hand if it's not cleaned. They all did their chores. The only one who didn't do her chores on the chore wheel was Amanda.
Long weekend. So, I don't know if you've been in town or in the area around that time of year, but like it's a special celebration. People do a long weekend to celebrate the days following Halloween because they're really traditional holidays in Italy. And so everyone made plans to go either visit their families or to go out of town. And
you oddly stayed, and Meredith stayed, but Philomena and Laura left. Strangely, Raph and you turned off your phone at the same time. You never did this before, never again, and then turned on your phone again in unison the next morning after the murder. So what is that about? See, she's never does an interview with anyone who, like me, who knows anything about the case, who could ask her these questions. She only talks to people who will simp for her.
Raffaele, my new boyfriend of a week, had made this plan that we would go to Gubbio, which is nearby, and like enjoy truffles. He was just trying to be this like very gracious,
wholesome. So he was someone who had the worst kind of things on your computer that you can ever imagine. Had taken a picture of himself with a hatchet, mummified himself with a hatchet, Rudy Gude also took very disturbing video where he's making these ghoulish eyes and bleh. It was all just like classical music and truffles, and he was just really a gentleman. He had gotten arrested for substances. Amanda had gotten a citation arrest for throwing a party where the party goers were throwing rocks at cars. It was so out of control. The only one without a record at that time of this murder was Rudy Gude.
Just host to me. And so my plan that morning was to just go home, take a shower, get dressed into something pretty, because I'm on this like romantic adventure, and go off to Gubbio. And instead I find a crime scene.
The ever-present
When you saw
commercials.
that,
The fortunate thing is I only saw the sort of, like, say, the crime scene.
So here's the problem. So when the police asked Amanda whether Meredith locked her door, so the killers, whoever they were, took all of Meredith's phones and dumped them so she couldn't call for help, and locked her door and had her die behind a locked door. And it was the worst kind of death. She drowned in her own blood. Heinous, heinous, heinous death. So when the police came, they said, is it normal for Meredith to lock her door? And Amanda was like, yeah, it's totally normal for Meredith to lock her door. And the other roommates were like, what? She never locks her door. It's always open. So listen to how Amanda Knox deals with it. Now it's sometimes locked, sometimes open.
And it's like the, ground.
But if you actually read her letter home, she was like, she was so alarmed, she started banging as hard as she could that Meredith's door was locked. Now it's like just maybe a little weird because it was sometimes locked, sometimes unlocked. So it was normal.
Zero. I only saw the outer, I did not see ground zero with my own eyes. I saw the outer ring of it, right? So I came home and found things amiss in my house, right? Like the front door was open. There was a little bit of speckling of blood in my bathroom. And like, as I was coming home, again, like I'm thinking I'm going off on this romantic, like
speckling of blood. The door was open. There was a bloody bath mat with a footprint on it, which was Raf's footprint, turned out to be. Mixed blood in the sink. And the next thing you want to do is get naked and vulnerable and take a shower, not knowing what's happened. So she's always downplaying how weird it was here. It would alarm anyone if you came home. If I came home and my apartment door was open, and then I went into the bathroom and there was a bloody bath mat, I'd be out of there so fast, running out of there so fast. I would not be stripping off and getting naked and taking a shower.
Trip. I just need to get changed, get my stuff, blah, blah, blah. I come home and I think, that's weird. Why is the front door open? There's no one here. But then I think, well, maybe someone forgot to lock the door. It maybe, like you're not thinking worst case scenario.
No,
I'm just thinking,
no.
oh, that's weird. The front door's open. And I go in the bathroom, like, oh, that's weird. Why is there blood drops? And I initially thought, oh, I had just recently pierced my ears, and I was like, are my ears bleeding? But no, it's okay. Weird. Well, I guess we're all girls here.
So Tuesday Money, who I did the early Amanda Knox episodes with, she thinks that during the struggle, Meredith Kercher pulled out Amanda Knox's earring, and that's what she was looking. That's why her lamp was on the floor facing towards under Meredith's bed, is that she was looking for that earring, to retrieve that earring that was yanked out of her ear. When you look at her ears, they look very, very suspect. And her roommate, I can't remember, I want to say it was Laura, had all these earpiece piercings like up and down her ears. So Amanda got that done just to copy her immediately in Italy. It's just like, All these psychopaths are just empty shells. They don't really have inner, personalities. They just take on others.
Occasionally stuff like that comes up. So whatever, it's fine. So I take a shower, get changed, and then I notice that there are 2 bathrooms in our apartment. And I go into the second bathroom to blow dry my hair. That's where the blow dryer is. And I notice that someone has left feces in the toilet. And that was the first moment that I got chills, because I was like, that wasn't explainable to me. That was a strange.
What is this, like acting out the sound effects? Oh, I got chills. Oh, ah, ooh, ah. Like the sound effects by Gwyneth Paltrow. Let me add to the drama. And the comments are ridiculous. Ridiculous. The most gullible people on planet Earth are in the comment sections like, this is amazing. How did Amanda get through this horrible, horrible event? She's so amazing and strong. Love prayers, Amanda. Love and prayers. Want to hear that again? Let's hear the sound effects again. So Amanda Knox, upon finding, she strangely preserved Rudy Goudet's poo. And all she wanted to talk to the police about was this poo in the toilet. Because she thought that there would be such a kangaroo court and kangaroo investigators. Is that even a phrase? I don't know. That she could pin this off on one person if they got rid of enough of DNA of themselves. Unfortunately, Raf's DNA was still found on Meredith Kercher's Brock glass. Her mixed DNA blood was found. Meredith Kercher's in the hallway, bathroom, and room of the staged break-in. But they were pretty good at just leaving Rudy Goudet's DNA in Meredith's room. That's the room that they did a lot of cleaning of.
In the toilet. And that was the first moment that I got chills, because I was like, that wasn't explainable to me. That was a stranger has been in the house. And I immediately was like, oh no. And I went back.
When she could identify the poo, she knew that was a stranger's poo. She knew, like, it wasn't Laura's poo or someone else's poo. She knew it was strange poo right away. She had remembered that toilet was clean beforehand. She had kept full rounds on the toilet and the poo. It's not like so it didn't just flush, or they might have had plumbing problems. She knew it was stranger's poo right away.
To Raffaele, and I was like, what do I do? And he was like, well, hold on, like you don't know, like call your roommates, like see if something is going on. And so I try calling them, and I can't get a hold of 2 of them, Meredith and Laura. I finally get a hold of Philomena. I tell her, this is weird. Were you at the house last night? Do you know what's going on? And she says, no, but that is weird. Let's meet back out the house and check it out. And she's farther away than me, so I get there first. Me and Raffaele go back into the house together, and we poke around more thoroughly. Like when I initially went to the house, I just went into my space. I went into my bedroom, I went into my bathroom, and then just blew dry my hair in the second bathroom. But this time I start looking in my other roommates' rooms. So I go to Laura's room, perfect, untouched, as if nothing happened. I go into Philomena's room, and it's ransacked. The window is broken.
And okay, so they knew that someone had thrown a brick from that it had been broken from the inside out, not the outside in, the way the glass fell, among other things. And so she's going to say that they knew that nothing was taken, because Rudy Goudet said this was a fight started about missing rent money. So we know that Amanda Knox had gone through all her savings that she had and she was close to not, they were dwindling down. She was spending thousands of dollars a week on what we don't know, maybe truffles. That's what her supporters say. And Rudy Gude said that they started fighting about this missing rent money, and that Meredith accused Amanda of taking the rent money. So, but when Raph called the police, he said nothing was missing. Like, strangely, he knew what Laura, Philomena, everyone in the house had, and he knew right away that nothing was missing. That's one of the first things he says to the police. Oh, nothing missing. Just looks broken into. Pretty telling.
Clearly, there's been a break-in. And immediately I tell my boyfriend, can you please call the cops? Because I don't even know how to call the cops in Italy.
Right.
So he's on the phone, and I then go to Meredith's room to try to.
I don't know how to call the cops. Wouldn't calling 911 be something you'd learn when you'd want to go to Italy? You'd want to learn those things. But here she's making a reason why he said there was nothing missing. Raph did. It's one of the more telling things. But she's like, clearly there's been a break-in. Clearly there's been a real break-in, not a staged break-in. Another thing that the Supreme Court upheld, that the break-in was staged.
Anything's wrong in there. And I can't open her door. It's been locked, which is weird. Because sure, Meredith has locked her door in the past a couple times, but it was always when she was inside the room, not when she was gone. And she is not answering when I am banging on her door. And I immediately think something is wrong. I don't know what is wrong, but something is wrong. So I ask Raffaele to try to break down the door. He tries kicking it down. He can't do it. So we decide to wait for the police to arrive. And they do. But they're not the police that we called. They are police who arrive who are completely separate entities. So as you know, in Italy, there are two completely separate entities of police.
She's right. So the phone police came because the phones were retrieved in a garden. Nearby.
Carabinieri, and there's the Polizia Postale. Raffaele called the Carabinieri. That's actually the same police that his sister works for, the Carabinieri. And so he called them and explained the situation, and they had some people coming. But in the meantime, this other police entity, the Polizia Postale, had discovered these cell phones that were, these cell phones were discovered.
Oh, all I can think of when she brings up Raffaele Sollecito's family, they interfered with this case as much as they could to get him off. And one of the things they did is a mobster came forward. I mean, you can't make this up. And said that his brother did the crime because he went to the wrong villa. I don't know how, looking to steal artwork. I hope I'm remembering this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he said his brother did it and swore to it. And then if they found out it was a total lie, and that he had been promised money from Raph's family for a sex change operation. Can you make this stuff up? You can't make this stuff up. Just great moments in Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito's innocence fraud story campaign.
And they show up.
And how do they know to show up to the house?
Because one of the SIM cards belonged to Filomena Romanelli, one of our roommates.
Okay.
So they're saying, we're looking for Filomena Romanelli. They're not saying we're looking for Meredith. They're looking for Filomena. And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense because I just talked to Filomena on the phone. I don't understand why her phone would be missing. And so I'm like, but we called you about a break-in. I don't know anything about any phones, but like there's been a break-in. And they're like, what are you talking about? And we're like, what are you talking about? We just talked to you on the phone. And there's this like confusion from the get-go of
and you're doing this in Italian?
Yes. And thankfully Raffaele was there to help explain, but I'm attempting to talk to people. I am not at all fluent in it.
Did you all get that? She's not at all fluent. Not at all fluent. Not in the tiniest bit. But she was talking to a lot of people.
Italian, and I'm trying to communicate, trying to understand, and it's complete and utter chaos.
Yeah.
Finally, they come into the house.
Oh, the serious face. We get the serious face from Gwyneth. Oh, she's putting on the serious face. Oh, yeah. See, it was all just a misunderstanding. All her change stories, all her lies, it's all just a misunderstanding. Never mind that she had a translator there when she was questioned as a witness. Oh, we'll get into that. I'm just trying to get through the brick of it, the brick of the story, and then I can move forward to some of the more ridiculous end parts.
They check things out. Philomena comes home. She has her boyfriend with her, and her boyfriend was the one who eventually broke in Meredith's store, and they discover her body. I did not see it because I was still busy talking to the police officers and, trying to like respond and navigate the situation. But
so everyone was there, felt that Amanda was delaying as much as she could, saying that it was normal, that Meredith locked her door and that maybe she was just out or whatever. The people around felt that she was delaying this discovery for some reason.
Like, she saw into her room, saw ground zero, where my friend, my roommate, fought for her.
They weren't friends. They hated each other. Amanda Knox was the only person in all of Perugia that I've ever heard of that hated Meredith Kercher. Strangely. And this was like a vicious, nasty, tortured death that was inflicted on her.
Her life and was sexually assaulted and stabbed to death and flipped out.
Oh my gosh.
And then everyone starts screaming in Italian. And I have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Right. I have no idea what's going on. But when she got to the station, one of Meredith's friends said, I hope Meredith didn't suffer too much. And Amanda Knox turned to her and said, what do you think? Her throat was effing slit. Very cold and callous. Never cried, never went to any memorial services for Meredith, her great friend. And she says, oh, that she was falsely accused and went on trial because of her yoga, that she now calls it yoga. But people say she was doing cartwheels and splits in the police station, not yoga, not stretching. And that when she was given little booties to go into the crime scene, forensic covers, foot covers. So when she was putting those on, she put on her booties and hat to go into the villa. This is afterwards, like to take police around the scene. Not only did she put her hands up to her ears and start shaking her head and freaking out at the knife drawer, strangely, but she put on these boot coverings and this little hat and went, ta-da! And people found that very inappropriate. So it wasn't just one act of stretching that people felt. So they go into that, her yoga, and Gwyneth's like, yeah, I know I'd want to do some yoga if I were at the police station for hours and hours. She came in with Raph. They told her she looked tired to go home. She insisted on staying with Raph, almost like as if they were co-conspirators, and she wanted to stay close to him so that he didn't change his story. The story was that they were together all night. And they still don't have alibis to this day for where they were that night. And Raph says there was a period of time that Amanda wasn't with him, that she went and did this alone, he claims. So when Raph finally broke and said, oh no, I was there that night, this is a whole pack of lies my girlfriend told me to say, that's when Amanda Knox falsely accused her boss, when Raph took away his alibi. Does it make sense now? So it's not some kind of massive hunch. I mean, you couldn't even go to court on a hunch. I mean, what kind of trial would be a hunch? She was treated very well. I know she got one court to say it's not, I don't even get into that. But she said under oath that she was treated very well, that the system has treated her very well and was very fair to her. So let's just move on forward. This is hard to take.
How police officers are allowed to communicate with you when they are questioning you about a case, right? There's something called an interview.
Right. She feels like that they were wrong to wait for a translator and get her statement. And then not only did she falsely accuse her boss, she came with what she called her gift, which she wrote another note, which was like, it might be a dream. I'm still really confused. She was playing cat and mouse. She didn't want to commit to any story. She was just kind of wasting the police's time playing sort of cat and mouse. Like, maybe he did it. Maybe my boss was there, but maybe it was a dream. But she's like, here's my gift. But I remember I covered my ears when Meredith screamed. So her story was changing constantly all the time. So even the laws had changed as far as slander is concerned. So she thought she was going back to Italy. And this is the reason she thought she would be exonerated, because they changed the laws and made them very defendant friendly, which threw out a lot of the evidence against her slander case. But even with a lot of the evidence thrown out, her slander case still stood. She's still a convicted liar. And these Hollywood dum-dums like Gwyneth are like, really? Really? Like, oh, tell me more. Please lie to me some more, Amanda. You convicted liar. You did 2 years in prison for lying? Tell me another story. So she feels like she was treated unfairly. And then she talks about what her parents went through. It's around here. Hold on a second. It's a lot, guys. I know most sane people can only take so much of Amanda Knox. I'm going to try to move through this.
Narratives take hold. That's interesting, but it like is a boulder that is like falling down the hill and accumulating like stuff on it as it goes along. And that's what this narrative about me felt like. Meanwhile, the actual murder, like, I don't know, how well do you know the case? Do you know that we know who committed the crime?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. 3 of you. We know who committed the crime. How well versed are you in my innocence fraud narrative? And now Gwyneth's like, yeah, I've read all your propaganda.
Great. Yeah. Well, some people don't know that. So like you'd be surprised the number of people who
and he's free, right?
Yes, he's free. Out. And he's on trial again.
Oh, she's so pleased. And she's like, and this is the way she talks about this. I think I'm going to end it here, close to here.
For stalking and sexually assaulting another young woman who thankfully survived this time.
See, survived this time. Strangely, no one's been killed. See, she's already knows that her naysayers are going to be like, well, that woman lived. Strangely. It's only when there's a whole lot of evidence of other people do people die. But let me see. I might take a quick break here. Thanks, Sunny NYC, for the super sticker. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Let me take a quick break and I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We're listening to Amanda Knox Innocence Fraud show with Gwyneth Paltrow. More when we get back.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact-focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, we're back. So I may have gone over this and just missed it at the time, but here's where Gwyneth asks about what the evidence was against Amanda Knox. And listen to how this goes.
Evidence that they started to follow that could have led them to assume your guilt.
I mean, isn't that the burning question that
I don't
has
get
haunted
it.
me my entire life? Yeah. And
Here. Yeah. Isn't that the question? How do you go to trial with a hunch? So when you're in Italy, you're appealing your case in front of judges. So it's not a jury, but you're like, hey, judges, I don't have any actual evidence, but I have a hunch. We just don't like her. We just don't like this Amanda Knox, this American. And then there's another part in this interview where Gwyneth talks about her extreme beauty. Amanda Knox is better than average looking, but is she a great beauty? No. It was odd. It was an odd story that, as I say this, I'm thinking about Meredith Kercher. Sorry, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here. But it was odd. Some people found her good looking, and any good looking woman who's on trial for this kind of crime is going to get attention. But I mean, she makes it sound like she's some kind of great beauty, not just better than average looking.
It's that haunted question of like, why did the cops take one look?
Okay, I'm going to just do a thought experiment with my audience here. You're wrongfully convicted of, okay? We'll use the language of the wrongful conviction movement. You're accused, they never say convicted, accused of a crime you didn't commit, right? We'll use that language. And you finally get a chance to talk about it. Wouldn't you be going over every little piece of evidence and how it got wrong and how it got twisted? So when the time finally came for you to say all the ways that the evidence was either misinterpreted, I don't know how it happened, you'd want to get into every nook and cranny detail. Here it gets really vague. Isn't that the question? Why did they pick me? Why me? You'd be like, look, Gwyneth, This guy, first they find this and they think it's this, or I don't know.
At a 20.
Her DNA on the handle of the murder weapon was and the victim's DNA on the blade kind of clued them in. She's the only one who was changing her story daily, and falsely accusing other people. It seems so obvious. I mean, I laugh at my younger self who was so brought in by this. But when why would you falsely accuse your boss? And then she's never paid him the money she owes him for slandering him and ruining his life. Never paid it. She feels that badly about what she's done.
20-year-old kid with no motive and no precedent, and think there's my rapist and murderer.
Right.
Like, why?
What was never treated as a graping case. It was never treated like that. And why? Meredith was smart, well-liked. She was dating a boy who lived, a young man who lived downstairs that Amanda really had her sights on. They hated each other. And then she was going to out Amanda for stealing her rent money. And came to blows. And Amanda was hyped up on things and had written stories like this that got very about sexually motivated crimes in great detail. People described her as like a bomb ready to go off. So a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm not surprised. So I think I'm going to try to end it there. It's just more innocence fraud. There's so much innocence fraud. I can't keep up with it. Does anybody have any questions to ask me? I mean, this is like the perfect dupe. When Gwyneth says, you know about the case, I would guarantee you if I went to Gwyneth with 10 facts about the case, she wouldn't know them. Real facts, not fake, not innocence fraud narrative. She knows the innocence fraud tale. She's watched the Amanda Knox documentary. But having no talents, Amanda Knox is going to grift off of this as long as she can. She's got mouths to feed, kids to feed. Well, I asked Pat Brown how Amanda's DNA mixed blood, why Amanda and Meredith were bleeding at the same time. How that came to be. I think, does anyone have any questions before I go? This is one of these episodes where I will return to it one day. I will be able to talk a lot more, and I'll tell you a whole lot more. That's all I can say. Yeah, it's terrible. It's almost like Karla Homolka. Same thing. You think about her children. They didn't do anything but be born. What a thing. Yep. Yep. Murder makes you rich in America. That's the way it goes. And this is where there's a new HBO thing on Adnan Syed's life. I mean, this is just an industry that just keeps going and going. Monday, there is the civil hearing in Karen Reed's case. There's just seems to just never end. can't keep up with all the amount of innocence fraud this country is producing. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. Please support the podcast. I can't do it without you. Links are in the description of this episode. You can send me a Venmo, buy me a coffee, or become a Patreon member and get access to content you won't get anywhere else. Oh, Liz Graham. Thank you so much, Liz. I appreciate your support. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks for the super sticker, Liz.
I'm gonna want you to forget. She plunges a knife into Meredith's neck. The double DNA knife we won't forget. Spun cartwheels and then splits at the police station. Couldn't hide your relation. Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you ignored your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Ruined his life with your big fat lie. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slut and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with the plunge of her blade. Never stops profiting off her crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. The city of Perugia will chase you out of town with pitchforks and torches. Like the monster you are. Get out crosses and garlic and watch how your skin scorches. We will never forget how you staged a burglary. Covered your ears to block out Meredith's screams. Mixed blood of you and Meredith all over the crime scene. Keep saying Rudy did it alone, but we are wise to your scheme. Amanda Knox is a convicted liar. You can't produce your own Hulu flick. Innocence Farm documentary. You are the world's oldest trick. The Court of Cassation said you were there at the scene of the crime. Wash Meredith blood off your hands and Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you blamed your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slob and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with the plunge of a blade. Never stops profiting off her crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. And pays. The city of Perugia will chase you out of town with pitchforks and torches. Like the monster you are, get out crosses and garlic and watch how your skin scorches. We will never forget how you staged a burglary. Covered your ears to block out Meredith's screams. Mixed blood of you and Meredith all over the crime scene. Keep saying Rudy did it alone, but we are wise to your scheme. Amanda Knox is a convicted liar. You can't produce your own Hulu flick. Innocence Fraud documentary. Remember the world's oldest trick. The Court of Cassation said you were there at the scene of the crime. Wash Meredith blood off your hands and Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you blamed your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slut and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with a plunge of a blade. Never stops profiting off her crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays. And pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays. And pays and pays.